Yeah. Um, you know, the projects, the black gangs, uh,
Mm.
the main way that they, distributed drugs was, fiends or whoever would come into the projects, cop, leave. Um, that's not the way that
No,
uh,
no,
that you move.
no, no, no. I hardly saw. I mean, in the beginning, very lightly, but I kind of picked up um, I, lightly in the beginning when I was like getting ounces, we dump a little bit. But even if I have to just move the ounce and 2.5 ounces and put a little bit on it and make a little more, but it was all good stuff. But it wasn't to selling to no user, man. By the time I got into it, it was just selling to people who sold to users, or selling to people who sold to people who sold to users.
Right, and so you obviously got snitched on.
Actually, it wasn't me, man. I got set up on a case, what's called a reverse sting. Uh, my co-defendant, we had a body shop in City Block Long on 39th and Hermitage called Eurotech Automotive, where we did Porsches, Mercedes, Ferraris, uh, exotic cars.
Right.
Uh, he got set up by a kid from Northeast who's a professional car thief. I mean, he stole 911 turbos in or 911s in general in seconds. It was good. It was that good. He set him up. I took a car, M3, Beamer. I found such and such in the trunk. I'm trying to get rid of it. It's all the setup. It was all bullshit.
Crazy.
Yeah. So when they nabbed him, as I, as they're nabbing him, I'm walking into the shop. I was there every day. I was coming in with a. I had my Harley at a bike shop, and they were playing darts. And they hang the dartboard at the overhead door.
Of course.
Okay, instead of taking it off to open the overhead door, the young kid flung the door up, and the dartboard flew and landed on my gas tank and put a big old dent in it. So the guy gave me a tank, and I was bringing it to the body shop to paint it the same color as the Harley. And I was walking in with the gas tank. He saw me. He already knew that I'm a high roller. He knew just from the reputation. He didn't know no details, but as soon as I walked in, he told me that's the big guy right there.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So you
Say,
so
I was one time I was standing right in front of the body shop, and I was messing with a Colombian girl named Gina. Uh, and as he came out of his car, now I didn't mess with this guy too much. He's a big mouth. He's one of them big mouth guys. He's from up north, a white kid. As a matter of fact, I believe he somebody said he might have been an MLD once upon a time.
okay.
But he tells the Colombian girl, "Ah, man, you telling this guy's a millionaire," and he's saying shit like that, and I'm like, you know what I mean? And she's looking at me. I swear to God. Now I know this guy. We talked. I talked to him like a goofy because he acts like a goofy. He's a loud mouth, but that was it. It was like minute talks here and there. But then he was locked up. So this is the guy that sent up my co-defendant. They've known him for years. And yeah, he told the girl that. So his assumptions. He's just because the way you get treated when you're in there, the cards that I had in there and stuff like that.
Of course. That's crazy. So you go to the feds, 12-year sentence, um,
13 years.
13 years.
Yeah.
Um,
They sentenced you in the feds by months, so I had 168 months or 160 months. I can't.
what's the main difference you going into there? Like, how does the feds move differently, than the state joint?
Well, I'll tell you what. When I went to the feds, man, it was a shock. It was really a shock. I discuss it all in my book, but it was a shock in the sense that I saw how it was doing time in the state back in the day, and how coming into this, everybody's a snitch. Had a guy come in and say, "Hey man, don't talk to nobody. They're all snitches here." That traumatizes you in itself. Like what?
Of
You know
course,
what I'm saying? Okay, so I expect to come in, we're gonna be soldiers. The feds was totally different, bro. It's you might mean something where you come from especially when you go do your time. Now at downtown, the traumatizing part was that they would bring in 20 certain gang and bro in weeks or a month, 17, 18 would be telling, they've already drawn out agreements with the government.
unreal.
I, I swear to God, and it didn't matter what clique you were in, bro. It was traumatizing, bro. It was the craziest thing. It was like a nightmare. I swear to God, it was like a nightmare. So that was that part. Then when you get to the joints, bro, it's like same thing. You got the same snitches. They're still doing the same. You can't trust nobody. But bro, it's like somebody might say something to you like in the state joint, dude, you couldn't say no stuff like that back in the day to me. You're like people who meant something in the state within their gangs, where people would come by you, they had no clue who you were, so that respect wasn't there. You know what I mean? You'd have to. It was a terrible situation.
Of course. So, is it during this time that you start to identify as a Muslim?
No, I refused it. I said no. I'm not gonna. I came in the way I came in. I'm gonna stand like that, and I'm not gonna run to grab no book, no Bible, no Quran, and think that God's gonna. These guys are, you know, uh, they're just phony. Man. You just came in now. All of a sudden, you're a religious person, bro. I would tell them. I say, hey, bro, listen, let me tell you something. And I probably was an ass for doing stuff like that because but it aggravated me. Yeah, you guys are all in a circle. You're crying. They're crying and reading the Bible or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, bro, that door is not going to open to let you out. This is when it's come to. I'm telling you, and this is what I say, and this is what I would tell them. And that old Palestinian guy came in. He was locked up for somebody came and set his sons up, and he got arrested with them on a trailer,
Right.
full of merchandise. Supposedly they owned the store on 63rd, and he came and son, it's Ramadan. You should be fasting. And I said, man, look, out of respect, because I don't disrespect. I said, no, you fast for me. I'm good. I'm good. And it took me like 3, 4 years to go to the first Friday prayer, and I was already in the joint. But I despised those kind of guys. I mean, it's so phony, dude. You can't even fool me. You're gonna fool God.
Yeah, like how are you supposed to embrace
Yeah.
religion when
And
you're
right away when they grabbed that, bro, when they grabbed those books and they just came in, and now they're all of a sudden religious. Look out.
yeah, and you are so you
He's
already have
he's
a
gonna be a snitch real soon.
right, and you already if your peers, if your Muslim peers are people
Mm,
that you already do not respect the foundation
mm,
of, how is that an entry into embracing the religion? Like, I understand that. You seeing the character
mm.
defects of these
Yeah,
cats, and you're like,
yeah.
okay, well, I'm not trying to be in the same room as them and see how they move and hear about this stuff. So what was that transition? Like, was there guilt about the path that you were on? Did you have regrets?
No, I never. I'm gonna be honest with you. I never had. The only thing I would say is if I could bring time back, I would change. I would do things differently. Not for anything, but most of all, so I could not hurt myself, especially not hurt my mother.
Of
That was the
course.
biggest thing, that I could just spend all that time with my mother. I would have have definitely clung to education, heavy, heavy, heavy education. Uh, Other than that, there is no guilt because it's the hand that I was dealt, and I played it the best way I could. You understand what I'm
Of
saying? I
course,
played it
of
the
course.
best way. I lost some hands. I won some hands. But what drew me to it, man, was a couple of things. One, I saw these black guys who just go and they pray, and I mean, they were into this religion. You know what I mean? And I'm like, this is my religion. What is it that's makes them do that? That's not making me do that. Not knowing that what's not making me do that is no knowledge of it.
Of
I grew
course.
up. My father was a communist. He didn't allow religion at home.
Right,
The
right.
Popular Front, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, is a communistic movement. There is no God. My dad
Right.
always said that. My mom would say, Wallah, and he would say, shut your mouth. There is no Allah. There is no God, to my mom. So I grew up in that type of household. My father was not religion. He didn't allow religious. He didn't allow religion. My mother was a different story. She was a good lady, always constantly mentioning God. So I lost my nephew. He fell off the couch, 18 months old, beautiful child, man, just fell off the couch, bumped his head, started crying, and went silent. So he went into shock. So he wound up passing away. It was just a lot of stuff hitting me, man. Like God was hitting me with different things. And while at the same time, it didn't make me want to go to religion, but at the same time, I got these guys. They constantly come to me like, "Hey, man, you're a Muslim, man." As soon as they hear my name, "Where you from, bro?" "Oh, I'm from Jerusalem." "Oh, you're a Muslim?" "Yeah." "Oh, man, how come you don't come to Friday?" I'm like, "Man, stay there." You know what I mean? I'm in a nice way. But finally, man, one day I told the dude, man, I said, "Look, bring me something to read. Let me read it, man. If it appeals to my heart, appeals to my mind, I'll start coming." And I started giving me books, and I started reading, and I couldn't stop reading, man. And I'm gonna tell you, if it was not that I found it to be factual, based off science, that science backs all the stuff that's in the Quran, and other things that the religion has to say about creation, that now with all this modern technology and science, we find that the Quran and the religion of Islam, we're talking about Sunni Orthodox Islam, is right about all of it, whether it's about the bee, whether it's about how stars are born, water, oceans. uh, that's why many scientists are becoming Muslims and have become Muslims.
Right.
uh, if it wasn't for that kind of stuff, bro, I would tell you, I'd be just, I wouldn't be out here committing crime, but I wouldn't even deal with that. So I read, man, and I couldn't stop reading. So I read for like 9, 8 years straight of different books, all factual, no opinionated, no uh, pray and hold my hand and that kind of stuff, man. It was specifically, Paul, a mind of an apostle. What did Jesus really say? This is the truth, and all types of books. And these books were based off of fact, not opinions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, of course. I mean,
Mm.
so you feel because you did 1 year in Kelly, so that you were never a sophomore in high school. Is that what you're saying?
Uh, I did 1 year in Kelly, and what happened was by the end of the year, uh, my basically I left. I was already first half of the year or so. I was cool with the SDs. We were all good. Then all the fighting started, but that's not why I went to Kelly High School at the time. I only made it to classes, my complete classes, 2 or 3 days. The rest of the year, I only made it to division because back in my day, if you went to division and signed in, you were marked as being there.
You were
They never
there.
called your parents. They never called. So I made it to every. The rest of the time, I was either in Bridgeport with the Spanish chancellors, or I was on 21st or 42nd or 24th with the SDs. Uh,
Right.
with some of my guys sometimes because there wasn't that many saints at the time at Kelly High School. So I really didn't make it to school that much. The next year now, that by the end of the year, I was already or
the the last quarter of the year, I was already beefing with the SDs. We were fighting in the hallways and stuff like that, you know. Um, then so I left, and the next year I came back. I didn't wait till the end of the year. I left like before the year ended by a month. I just my dad said, "That's it. You're going to work in the store. You ain't." He came and saw that I was never in class. I was FA everything, failure attendance, failure attend, you know. So anyway, but next year I decided I'm going to take a crack at it again. I went back to school, and I had a big falling out with the SDs. I chased some into punk and into the one of the gyms with a 2x4. They jumped me between the girls' gym and the boys' gym. It was Vato from the Stone Chicanos and a couple of SDs, but they didn't do too much damage. I went
Right.
downstairs and got a 2x4 and came back up. Cop chased me. I ran in there, but he was right behind me, so I took off and never went back to school again.
Where in Bridgeport did the Spanish chancellors hang out at?
28th, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, 28th and Wallace. That neighborhood right there, there's a grammar
Yeah.
school right there. That grammar school right there, that was their hangout right there. That was Monk, Miko, Simone, Little John, a few other guys, good guys. Now that's the only clique that the Saints we really got along with at the time on that side. They were folks though,
Right.
but we were cool from Kelly High School. I knew Monk. Me and Monk were friends. Monk used to be a D boy before he became a chancellor.
Who hung out in McGuane Park?
Uh, I don't think anybody at the time.
Was it,
Maybe Hitman Dagos. I'm not sure. You know,
yeah.
there was a group in there called Hitman Dagos. I had a little thing with them. I'm not sure, really, to be honest with you. I think it was just some guys from the neighborhood, not really no
Right, right.
cliques.
So the projects, they were already built. They were there. Um
SDs, yeah, that was
they were
SDs.
already there.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure, for sure. Um but the point that I was trying to get at is that so you didn't really start reading and educating yourself on like a deeper level till you were in the feds. Is that what you're saying?
Till I was in the feds, absolutely,
And it
absolutely.
was through the Quran that was kind of like your entryway to seeking more knowledge.
It was actually not the Quran, but it was actually other books, like what did Jesus really say? Sheikh Zindani's book, This is the Truth. Things like that that led me. It was more um, how, what, interfaith type thing. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right, right.
That type of thing. Comparative studies into religion. You know what I mean? Comparing religions and so on and so on.
Was
And then that led me to the Quran, to study within the Quran, and then to the interpretation of the Quran by Ibn Kathir and Ibn Taymiyyah and the
yeah.
Hadith books, which the Sunnah comes from, and so on and so on.
And you're interacting with because you're in the feds with Muslims from all over the country.
All over the country, all over the country. We had Muslims from Cali, we had Muslims from Pakistan, we had Muslims from Afghanistan, we had Muslims from Africa, we had Muslims from all over the world, Bosnia, Albania,
Wow.
uh, all types of
So
Muslims.
you're the
Remember, this is. I mean, I've met people in the feds. I didn't even know the countries existed. Cape
right.
Verde, where the hell's Cape Verde at? It's a small island off the west coast of Africa.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I mean, you meet all kinds of people:
So
Dominican, Jamaican, uh, Barbados, Colombian, Venezuela, everything, everything. You got everything.
where did like as you as a saint, where does
Mm.
Chicago politics fit into the feds, like the makeup?
Well, I'll tell you what. Within the feds, you still have that segment of folks and people.
Right.
Okay, wherever you go. If you're in Illinois, it becomes folks and people. If you're in California, it becomes Chicago. It didn't matter whether you're folks and
Right.
people. You understand what I'm saying?
Of
It
course.
becomes geographical. It becomes geographical. You stick with each other because and that's the way it is. Once you're far, it's crazy. When you're close to home, you separate. When
Yeah.
you get away from home, you cling together. You
That's
know what I mean?
crazy. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, 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 yeah.
A big question that I've wondered. So, uh, did you have hurdles embracing Islam into your life? Like, what was another interview that you had done. The last one that I watched, the one that you suggested to me.
Oh, with the Dean show
Yes,
with Eddie. Yeah.
I loved that interview.
Oh,
But you mentioned a void that you had in your life. You know,
yeah, yeah.
it
Yeah, most definitely. And I'm telling you, and Islam filled it. And I'm not talking because I'm a Muslim, because I was born a Muslim. I didn't know nothing about it. I became an atheist, and I went from there into being badgered by these guys about, hey man, you should come. Hey man, you should. Hey man, you should. So, uh, but there was a great void in my life, man. But I'll tell you, when I studied, everything becomes clear. But I also read books that made things clear that were not. The guy that actually introduced me to some of the stuff was a white supremacist, what they call here white supremacist.
right.
He's really a real nice guy. He was well informed about what's going on in the world. And he led me to some books, Pawns in the Game, The 13th Tribe. This was the first introduction into a guy who knows more about my race and my nationality and what's going on around my country and who's really the perpetrators than me. Which was I
Wow.
thought I knew something. And this was a white guy from the West Coast who was locked up for 80 years with a group of militia guys. If you remember, there's a radio talk show host that was a Jewish guy in Colorado. There's a movie
Wow.
about it.
Yeah.
He was one of the co-defendants on the case. His name was Randy. And
No
Randy,
way.
yeah. So I'm walking this white guy. He's real preppy, looks very educated with glasses. Uh, you know, classy guy, but he likes to kick soccer, but he won't play. And I told him when he mentioned it to me one day, and I said, well, how come you don't play? You know, he would tell me, come kick with me. He picked me out of everywhere. I swear to God, come kick. He didn't mess around with a lot of people. Can you kick the ball with me? And we would kick the ball across the field, back and forth, back and forth. I said, how come you don't play with the leagues? No, I don't want to do that. So he said, oh, you want to walk the yard? I said, yeah, sure. We walk. He said, what's your name? I said, Emad. Where are you from? Jerusalem. He stops. He looks at me. He said, are you Jewish? I said, hell no, I'm Palestinian, man. I ain't no Jew. And not that something's wrong with it, but we're talking about I'm a Palestinian, just like a Jew would say, no, I'm not a Palestinian, I'm a Jew. But
Right.
anyway, so he says, oh, good, you're one of the good guys. And I said, what did he just say? He said, your people are the only people fighting the Antichrist. And I said, what the hell is this guy talking about? I thought he was a nut job for a minute, but I
Yeah.
know he wasn't because he don't talk like that. He don't talk like a very educated guy. And then he started to school me on some things. Then I found out about the 13th tribe and where these people really come from, pawns in the game, about world conspiracies, really good books, man. And
Right.
that's where at least into that part, which actually I think set the stage for me for the rest of the stuff within Islam, within the religion of
So
Islam.
I did a quick. I knew that you were speaking on the order. Um,
Mm,
who killed the talk show host? Alan Berg, I think was his name.
mm,
But I googled it.
yeah,
Randolph Dewey
mm.
is, I think, the brother that you're speaking on.
Yeah, yeah, Randy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's incredible. I mean, that's
yeah,
just
man. He's the guy that educated me about me and my people.
unreal.
Yeah, a white guy in the middle of nowhere. Who would
Yeah.
tell? Don't tell me. No, you can't tell me that these things are coincidence.
I know that's crazy. I mean, a member of the Aryan nations.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's unbelievable. Um,
Hmm.
so a random question that came to mind that ties earlier, something that I've been asked a lot is about family ties between the saints and the counts. Um, trying to explain why there was not really a war, considering the counts in McKinley Park are technically your neighbors. Um, I have heard that there's family ties, and that is why there was never any drama.
You know what? Here's what I'm going to tell you on that. I really can't answer that because when all that happened, I was locked up in the feds.
Right, right, right.
And when the Saints, to be honest with you, when the Saints became people, I had, so to speak, a little falling out with them.
Right, right.
And if you read my book, you'll see
I
Of
talk
course.
about all that. I talk about all that. They called me to a meeting. I went to the meeting and I voiced my objection and I told them that I'm basically folks and I can't do that and I'm not going to do that. I'm not sanctioning none of that. If you guys do it, you do it on your own. I, it's just to me, somebody else might not be able to understand, but you would have to pose that question to
Of
somebody
course.
you'd have to pose that question to a saint who's people and been people and grew up
Right.
with the concept of people, and I come to them and I say, hey, guess what? Would you flip folks? There's no way you're gonna do that,
Of
and
course.
that's where the person has to understand me. I mean, uh, I became a saint and always per se will be, but now in a positive setting. But I can't go folks and then go people. Come on, man. You can't do that to me. You
Right.
just can't, you just cannot do that to me. I can't do it, man. I mean, I don't bang. I do more work to try to help brothers to go to a straight path. And if we can, and I do a lot of outreach and stuff like that. And I stay neutral. But you can't, bro. You can't. It's like I'm saying, I'm not gonna become anything else. Like when Sal from the Tutu Boys came up to me on the steps in front of Kelly, and said, "What's up, devil?" Just like that. "What's up, devil, man? You gonna be with us or you gonna be with them?" Like that, moving his hands. I told him, "Nah, bro." I kind of smiled and laughed. I said, "Nah, Sal." I said, "Oh, I'm that. That's what I'm gonna be." And then that was right there is where everything fell apart. But that's the same way, bro. I was folks. I can't, man. I got a 6 point star on my body
Wow, that's crazy.
to this day. I can't do that, bro. It's just a matter of principle. I can't do that, man. I can't. I mean, some people might be able to, but I can't. To me, flipping from folks to people like that, bro,
Right. I
would
mean,
be equivalent to me saying I'm from a saint, I become something else.
it's a lot. It was a lot of deuces that flipped king.
Yes.
When that same transition happened.
Yeah.
And you might be one of the only Muslims with a 6 point star tattooed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There might be now, but maybe back in the day I might not be. But uh,
Right.
back in the day I might be the only one. But nowadays, God knows, because there's Satan disciples that are saying, I mean, that are
That are Muslim.
Muslims,
Yeah. I know a
cobras,
couple.
maniacs, probably. Yeah,
Right.
there's been some.
Absolutely.
Um,
There's a lot of
so, but
maniacs that are Muslim.
yeah, but back in my day, I was probably one of the few Palestinian Muslim gangbangers in the city of Chicago. Not exclusively the first or anything like that, but definitely there wasn't many. And if they were, they would be like kings or something.
Uh, Last gang related question. What did you think of groups like the KGBs and the Tap Boys? Um, they were more
And,
predominantly, you know.
yeah, Arab.
Yeah.
And here's another one that I have to tell you. All that happened while I was in the feds.
Right.
It happened while I was in the feds. None of that was around when I was out. It may have been just starting to trickle in, but not really noticeable. So, and it got noticeable in the mid late 80s, I believe.
Right. Right. Right.
So, mid late 80s, I was in the feds. Shoot, I was Michigan, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Wisconsin. I was all over the country.
What led you to write a book?
I'll tell you what led me to write a book. I went to a fundraiser in 2005 with was a friend of mine who has a non-for-profit organization, and I would help him. I went to a fundraiser in Ann Arbor, Michigan, to a doctor's house who was from Syria. He's a surgeon. This organization's on the south side on 63rd and Cal. So I went with him. He said, "Come with me," and then they talk to these doctors and they give donations. These doctors, Indian, Bangladeshi, Pakistani, Arab doctors. And he went to do something, and he told the Syrian doctor, he said, "Hey, Doctor So and So, talk to Emad. You'll find his life interesting." And the doctor looked at me, scooted over to me, pushed his chair close to me, and he said, "Tell me, I want to, I want to hear it." And what? So I talked to him for like 6, 7 minutes, maybe, just talking about my life. This dude stops me, grabs me by the hand, walks me over to the guy who's talking to an Indian doctor and taps him on the shoulder. He says, "Excuse me 1 minute." He said, "Hey, this guy got to write a book about his life." And I said, "What?" I'm thinking, I said, "This doctor must be nuts." You know what I mean? Write a book. That was the first one. Then that was 2005 or 2006. Then from that, every like people I would meet, normal people, man, you're an interesting guy. You should write a book. And I never gave it a second thought. I was I had my Harley by a bike shop on 130 something, and the guy is affiliate. He's an outlaw, and he said, and we talk. We're real cool, real good guy. So he says to me, yeah, you're an interesting guy. Another guy with an interesting guy. You ever thought about writing a book? And I'm thinking to myself, this is in like 2015. Now, I go see one of my guys. He's a GD from Inglewood, but he lives out in Dalton. I go see him. I was in the feds with him. We were real close. And I go see him out in Dalton. He's got a little book right there. And I look at it. I said, "Oh, you wrote a book?" He's like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "Man, I don't know why you don't write a book, man. You got a hell of a story, an interesting story, man. You should write a book." And I said, "What?" And when I left there that day, I drove to the house. I got on the computer. I started to research what I would need to write a book, and I went from there. This was like 2016, uh, 2016, 2000, somewhere around there, maybe late 16 into 17 when I saw him. And then I started to write the book, and I published it in 2019.
When you were writing the book, did you start to realize that your story was unique?
No, you know what? When people started telling me that, slowly it would it would like trigger something in me to say, wait a minute, you didn't live a normal life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I thought because when we're living it, we think that you don't never because you live it daily, you think this is normal. It's far from normal. So
It's abnormal.
slowly, yeah, it's very abnormal. It's very abnormal. So slowly it started to, and that's what really pushed me. And then when I saw he wrote the book, I said I could do it. Um, but I had already been seeing that, hey, I mean, somebody send me a message, man, a little girl, who was a big girl now, but she sent me a message on Facebook, and I remember you. And her dad was a saint, and she said, I could read people, and I said, well, read me. But she had already read my book. She actually gave me an excellent review on my book, I said, but you read my book. She said, no, no, no. I'll tell you what I thought of you when I used to see you. And she laid out some stuff. She said, you used to scare me. I looked at your face and you looked like a guy who wasn't scared of shit. You protected your family and blah blah blah. I swear, I got a picture of that. It was on Messenger. She said, I got a picture of that. I'll text you that so you could read it yourself. And it was things like that, and over and over. When I had a guy send me a friend request on Facebook. It was an Arab name, and I'm like, did I know this guy from the joint or something? And for a while I only accept his friend request because I really didn't grow up with Arabs. I grew up with Mexicans,
Right,
and
right.
and some whites. So who is this guy that's sending me this? I don't know. And then I'm looking over and over. I can't place him. Finally, I accepted his friend request, and I get a message. Hey, brother, man, blah 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 blah. And I said, man, do I know you? And he said, "Man, I I grew up on 43rd and Wood. I was a little boy back then. Man, I just want to tell you, welcome back. Man, I got nothing but respect for you. I remember everybody in the neighborhood fearing you. Things like that. I was like, what
Wow.
the? I never saw that. I never thought that. You know what I mean? It was a lot of things like that that showed me that, hey, man, there's something to be told here.
You start to see yourself through other people's eyes. You know,
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put the link to your book. Um,
I
like
appreciate that, man.
uh, like I said, of all the books, this is by far to anybody listening, above and beyond one of the most interesting. It has a great deal of history that I get asked about a lot. And I'm really glad that you were able to touch on a lot of stuff that, basically drawn out that map that
Mm.
is starting to disintegrate as the years go on because, nowadays what's going on the streets is a much different reality.
Much
Automatic
different.
gunfire, Xanax, um, everybody's renegade. Uh,
Yeah.
Brothers don't know literature. They don't know the laws. That's becoming a dwindling factor. And I'm not trying to say that those things being in the mix would make anything better because gang violence in general is, it's obviously a detriment to the well-being of the kids in the city of Chicago and cities
Exactly.
all over America. Um,
Exactly.
but it's different. So like that's my big thing is, this specific book is a beautiful, interesting, heavy-hearted at times journey um, that I hope everybody that listens to this is motivated to go get it. Um, and it's got to feel like such an accomplishment to tell your story. Um, did you have you ever ended up going back to the Middle East and seeing where you grew up as a child?
No, that's another subject in itself. It's gonna be in my. If you read my book, you'll see I have a situation with the immigration. They took away all my papers and they basically
Right.
deported me, but they cannot remove me because I don't have a country. So the Israelis do not
Wow.
allow me back in. So I am in limbo in this country. I can't go anywhere. I could get a driver's license, I could work, I could own a business, I could do all that. But supposedly, when there's a Palestine again, I am to be deported to Palestine.
So you are not an American citizen.
I'm not an American citizen. My family all became American citizen. At first, when they did, I bucked it because, out of all my brothers and sisters, I'm the oldest. So I was already engaged in fire burning, throwing rocks because
Right.
I'm the oldest. So I had a resentment on how the United States supports the state of Israel, which is basically my land taken. So there was some resentment there. But it was probably the biggest mistake of my life.
Right.
Because look at me, guys, my friends were going to Cancun. $500, $1,000 to go to Cancun. I can't even do none of that,
You're stuck.
you know what I
Right.
mean? I'm
Uh,
stuck. I want more than Cancun. I want to see Jerusalem, man. I want to kiss the ground. I want to pray in the Masjid al-Aqsa in Jerusalem.
Right.
I remember. I love it. I miss it. But it's just like that's the curse that I've been cursed with, or I cursed myself with. And it's my bed, and I'm laying in it, man. I'm
Do you
not
do you
there.
feel do you feel like if you were deported that would be something that you would embrace and that you would be happy to go there?
Uh, Under present circumstances, I could tell you this that I probably won't be alive long, and if I am, I'd be imprisoned immediately. Especially if you watch my TikTok or my Facebook, I'm a heavy advocate of the Palestinian cause,
Of course.
because I was raised that way. I'm actually doing a book right now that's going to discuss that other issue about the immigration. I'm doing
Right.
a
Right.
book right now about Palestine. I'll let you know when it's done. It's factual stuff. A lot of basically quotations. A lot of quotations.
Right. Right. Beautiful.
A lot of photographs, quotations, breakdown of certain things from reliable sources. But I would have to embrace it, but it wouldn't be it wouldn't be a pleasant
You'd have
thing.
you'd have a different purpose there.
Yes, I would have a different, and it won't, yeah, like I'm telling you, at the way it stands now, it would be they would just kill me or put me in prison, one of the two,
Right.
and kill
Right.
me eventually, slowly, like they're
Um.
doing to a lot of people.
Well, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna. There's a lot of questions that come from that.
Yeah,
Hopefully, when you do your next book, we could have another talk. I think my platform will be built pretty
yeah,
well
yeah,
by
yeah,
then.
yeah.
Is there anything that you want to say or anybody that you want to shout out before we go?
Uh, you know what? The main thing that I would say is, I wish that some of these young brothers would study their history. I've had a little situation with a guy that sent me a message when he saw the pitchforks and the 6 point star, and he actually said some stuff that was off the wall, and but I had to be patient and let him go. Uh, and it's just that how he didn't know any of this stuff is amazing. I think that if we go back and search the root of all this stuff, we might come to a better picture of where we're at now, and probably with things a lot different. I hope some of these young brothers out here will just take a minute out of their time and just say, there's a lot I don't know. Maybe I should just chill, listen, and make some sense out of this whole stuff. Because I deal with gunshot victims daily, man, as they happen. And that's what I do. I offer services to them individuals. And I want to send a shout out to all these young guys, in the sense that I say that there's somebody that cares about you. I don't want to see the stuff you guys are doing to each other. That shit may sound corny to you, but it's far from corny. Corny is laying in a grave 6 feet under, and you're 19 years old and 18 years old, and your mom crying over you. That's corny. I just wanted to say that, man. I hope and pray, honestly, a big shout out to all those who are trying to free Larry. Uh, uh, that's a brother with a big brain, man. He is needed out here. Not that he could stop anything, but he could talk. He could definitely. He's looked up to, um, not like he was back in the day. And I'm talking about the old man Larry Hoover. Uh,
Right.
yeah, I mean,
No,
realistically, man, he's
there's a
been done unjustly.
there's a
Unjustly.
there's a
It's
big
time for him.
spotlight on his case, which is a beautiful
Yeah,
thing. Like I love to see that. Um,
yeah.
I love,
Things like that, man.
yeah, I
Yeah,
want to see more of that. I want to see more.
yeah,
His
yeah,
story, aside from the influence he could have, he needs to
yeah.
come home. You know.
He needs to come home because I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of guys out here in non-violent movements, guys who are talking non-violent, bro, that I won't name names or talk about a particular organization, that are full of crap, bro. There's guys pretending to be something they are not, and they got these people flamboozled to think that they were something other than what they are.
Right.
And as far as kept, man, I believe a lot of them might even not want to see the old man,
I believe
because
it.
it would take the light off of them. And the only thing he could do is basically do a lot of talking with wisdom to try to direct, because his reign and the power he had, it's still some of it there, but not like it was. You know what I mean? So it would
Right.
take a lot of work, but he's definitely needed. You
And
know
I
what I
and
mean?
I've said that a lot, is that I believe that a lot of these organizations, when they lost their kings or chiefs, a lot of them,
I talk about some of that in my book.
right,
You're right. I know what you're gonna say.
right, a lot of these, the blocks were happy because
Yeah,
free
yeah,
reign, false sense of empowerment,
exactly. And that's
grabbing.
and that was the whole idea. That was the whole idea behind the powers that be, to snatch them guys up. It was basically showing them, look at your leaders. These are the guys you respect. Look what we're doing to them. And it basically, boom, they got no power. They can't do nothing to you. And all the structures fell, and people just ran wild, man. So that they put the lions away, and the hyenas were left to lead.
Absolutely. Hey, I really appreciate you taking the time. Um, I hope to
I
speak to you
appreciate you
again,
interviewing me, man. Oh,
and
definitely, I'm here.
I'll send you the link.
Okay, beautiful, bro.
You have a
Nice
ble-
talking to you. Nice meeting you. Okay,
You as well. You have a blessed night.
you too. Bye.